Let's try this again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of Patch Notes, the Home Games podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Milano Mud.
Hello, Milano Mud checking in. See, this is the same intro we just did, and we just recorded like 2 minutes of an intro, and Yazeed was using the wrong mic, so we had to throw that one out. But yeah. I think we're trying to do the same intro again, and it just doesn't work. You know, Milano Mud was a whole conversation we just had before. Anyway, I'm Joseph. Today is February 15th, 2020. This is Patch Notes.
You ruined the magic of it all. They wouldn't have known I messed up if you didn't tell them.
That's the thing I've heard on every podcast I've listened to. There's at least one episode where they're just like, yeah, we just recorded 2 hours or something and we lost the whole thing, so we're doing this over again. And that sounds like something that I never saw happening with us. But, you know, now it feels like we're a real podcast. It was 2 minutes and not 2 hours. But
yeah, if we lost 2 hours, I would have been like, listen, this week, no podcast. If we lost 2 hours, I'd be so sad. It was like 2 to 3 minutes. But yeah.
Yeah, and they weren't even good.
I thought they were good.
Okay, well.
Every second I get to spend with you is a good second.
That's a nice thing to say. I like you too, Yazeed.
Thanks. So normally this is the part of the podcast where I ask you what's happening, but I'm just going to start with what's happening with me. So I've been watching a lot of My Hero Academia, like a lot. I'm on halfway through season 2, all right?
Okay.
This show is not as good as people said it was.
Why? Okay, tell me what the show is, because I've only seen the first episode.
So the show is basically anime version of Marvel movies.
Okay. Like, in what way though? I know the main character doesn't have a quirk or something, and everybody else has a quirk, and that's like their superpower.
Mm-hmm.
What's
the
show about?
The show is about that guy, basically. Because he ends up getting one. Like, I don't want to spoil it too much, but he ends up getting a quirk. And he is not very good with it. And so, like, at this point in the show, it's just him trying to, like, get good with it. And, yeah, that's it. That's, like, what the show's... Like, as far as I can tell, it's what the show's about.
What? I don't get it. Like... Maybe I just don't understand like the intention of the shows or like the style or what, but maybe that sounds like One Punch Man to me also, where One Punch Man is like, what is this show about? I'm 5 episodes in and he's just bored and fighting people. Like, what is this about? If you're saying that show is like he's just going to this school and sucking at what he's doing, that's the show.
Well, yeah, kinda. So he's trying to become the best hero in the world because I guess there's like a official power ranking and his idol is the number 1 hero in the world. And so he wants to like overcome his idol basically.
Oh, that guy he meets that saves him or whatever.
All Might, yeah.
I was like, it's funny. I was watching that first episode and I was like, Yazeed is silly thinking that all anime is porn on some level or whatever. And then it got to the part where that girl just came in like the skin tight thing with the butt cheeks out. She's like, oh, there we go. There's anime.
Yeah, exactly. That's listen, I'm cool if she's an adult lady. My problem is a lot of anime does that and it's like, and they're in high school and it's like,
I was just talking about anime with another friend of mine this past week and he was saying that the reason that a lot of anime is set in high school, like that time period in people's lives, is because it's a very transitional period for a lot of people. A lot of like you just grow up a lot in that time, and so as a result, like in anime in general, they just like to focus on that because it allows for a lot of kind of interesting change in a character or something. I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think people do go through a lot of change in high school. I think for me, college was more that changeover. I think high school was kind of more of the same. Well, I don't know, because high school is when I met a lot of like my friends, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's just probably different types of change. I mean, a lot of people change a lot in high school. Like you go from being kind of depressed to super depressed, you know? But then college is kind of the upswing after that, maybe.
Ultra mega depressed.
I don't know. Like middle school, you change a lot too, but that'd be weird. I guess it's like you could set it any time, so I don't really know if high school is the one. But maybe that's just what people say because it is weird, but people just kind of need a reason to say, yeah, that's why it's high school.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think people who make anime maybe just don't know how real people live or grow up.
I don't know. Anyway, anime.
Yeah, anime is weird. Anyway, yeah, I've been watching that show a lot, and it's people hype that show up like it's the second coming of like Lord of the Rings or something, or Star Wars, and it's just like it's fine, maybe.
Yeah.
I had to go through a whole tournament arc, and that was the first time I've ever been through a tournament arc. I hate tournament arcs. You know what that is? Basically, it's like 700 episodes where they're just fighting each other in a tournament.
700 episodes?
Well, I think it was like 10 or 13 or something like that.
Okay. Well,
where they're just slowly fighting each other.
What's like a season in that show? Are we talking about My Hero still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So season 1, I think, was like 11 or 12 episodes, and then season 2 is like 30, and then 3 is also 30, and I think 4 is ongoing or something like that.
Okay. There's like 76 or something total I saw on Crunchyroll. I don't know if that's... Or maybe it was like 100 and something. I don't know. There's a bunch.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Sword Art Online?
No.
That's one I watched the first few episodes a long time ago. It's like people in a like VR game, and then they're all in it forever. They like don't get out of their beds. They're just like in this MMO thing. It's all crazy. I forget the exact story, but that's basically it. You know?
I don't know.
Pretty rad. Anyway, I think I'm going to watch that one because I don't like My Hero Academia.
Yeah, I recommend against My Hero Academia, honestly. What was it?
That was the Home Games Anime Minute. Or Anime...
That was a lot more than a minute.
10 minutes.
It was just both of us complaining about it, too. How's it going, man? What's new with you? What's going on?
Chilling. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. We went out to a steak place and we watched okay, what do you think a cabaret is?
Isn't that like a burlesque dance almost?
Yeah, okay. So I didn't know what it was. Like Zenobia had the same idea. She made those two words are basically the same to her, cabaret and burlesque. And I've never been to like any kind of a show like that at all. The only thing I have with cabarets is in GTA 4 when you can go out to dates at cabarets or whatever. And it's like this. Anyway, it was a Grease-themed cabaret, like the movie Grease. We love the movie Grease. And so we were thinking it would just be people like doing Summer Lovin' or whatever on a stage while we ate steak. And it was really not that. It was like they had this opera singer dude, and he was actually really great. But like there was no Grease theme there. He was just... You know what I mean? He was just a dude in a suit singing. Anyway, it was super weird, and they had, ladies shaking butts and all that kind of stuff too.
Nice.
And it was funny seeing some people get visibly uncomfortable. Like, everybody's there with their wife or their whatever. It's all couples at these tables. And like seeing some of the ladies' faces looking at the guys, and some people like leaving early and stuff. It's like no one knew what to expect. And anyway, it was just like a really interesting Valentine's experience, but it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah. What else? I don't know, because Valentine's was yesterday and my work stuff has still been crazy and all this. I didn't work on Home Games a whole bunch. I have some updates we'll talk about later, but I don't know. Kind of not a lot going on there. I beat Max Payne 3.
Nice. How many times have you beaten that game?
Probably like five or six. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a really good game. Like there's all these modes too, so you can play it, just like a regular difficulty and all that kind of stuff. There's collectibles in the single player if you want that whole thing. But then there's these like time attack and score attack modes where it's beat the whole game without dying type stuff, which is crazy. Like that's the kind of stuff I really like. Trying to get a better score. That's why I like Geometry Wars so much. But in those modes, they still have the cutscenes. So it's like I'm cool, trying to do like a 6 or 7 hour run of Max Payne 3 with no deaths. Like, I'm the kind of weirdo that would try that. But the problem is when there's an hour of cutscenes in the middle of that and I can't skip them, that, you know what I mean? Like, that's not me playing the game anymore. That's just like a nuisance, I guess, in the way. Anyway, the game is really good, but it's not perfect. And that one thing I just wish was better.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
That makes sense. I know it's one of your favorite games, and you've told me you're playing it a lot.
Yeah, it's a good one. Well, let me look at my notes. I have Max Payne 3 on there as my first thing. I cannot read this thing I wrote.
I had that problem too.
Oh,
that's why I type everything in VS Code, Joseph. That's just
overkill for text editing. Is my summary of my argument against using VS Code for that. But okay.
This man uses Vim. I'd like to point out.
I do not. I use a physical notebook. I only wrote Vim. I only wrote my notes in Vim that one time because I didn't have my notebook with me.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, I like using an actual notebook. But that's the downside is I can't read what I wrote. But I think I know what it says, so we'll talk about that later. It's a home games thing, I think.
I have a question for you. What is Synovia's favorite pet name?
Pet name?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Like Sugar, Hun.
Oh, we call each other Booby and Bob.
Nice. And that's your favorite one to be called as well?
Yeah, we call each other that word. It's like, because it started with B-A-B-E. That, like, we don't like saying that word. It's a weird, awkward word to call someone babe.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Thank you.
we just don't, so we don't say babe. We said Bob, like B-A-B. And so we would call each other like Bab. And then that turned into Bob, which turned into Robert, which turned into Buberto, which turned into all these other kind of things. But it's mostly just Booby has been the one that we stick to now.
Buberto is probably my favorite one in that list. Oh, okay.
That's a special occasion name, You're about to go out on the town. It's like, you ready, Buberto? That type thing.
Ooh, there's some spice to that one.
Yeah.
Nice. I was asking somebody else about this, and they were saying that their lady just says, "Hey, you." I think that's super funny.
That could be for anybody. That could be very confusing when you're in a group, but I like it.
I think it's like the tone that they say "Hey, you" with. Like, if you said booby, you probably don't say it like, "Ooh, booby." You probably like. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. We both say it differently. I don't say the word booby in any other context, though.
That's probably for the best. Nice.
Also, I loved not editing last week, which leads to my question: how was editing last week?
It was a learning experience. I learned that there's some things that I do during this podcast, like conversationally, that makes it harder for you, and I can feel it when I do them when I was recording.
Like what?
But I don't notice them like when I'm doing the podcast.
Do you have an example of anything that like you cut out or something like that? Because this is kind of fun.
Yeah. There'll be long pauses, and I get uncomfortable with long pauses, and so I try to fill them up, but I fill them up poorly by just laughter and then the word but like and then more laughter and then another word as I'm trying to think of something else to say. It's like I literally I don't give it the time it needs, and that's something we've talked about. So I've cut a lot of that out from the last one. Like I think literally like 15 minutes of me doing that.
I do that too. I do like a at the beginning of what I say, just because it's like the way I don't think before I speak ever. So I just kind of do that while I'm prepping, and then I just kind of go.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I noticed is that I speak so quickly that I don't enunciate properly. And so, like, I've been practicing enunciation in the shower. It's like I've just been saying the words I need to enunciate properly.
You just say that to yourself in the shower?
Yeah.
Dude. It's like
what?
You have the most serial killer-like tendencies of any of my friends.
What do you mean?
Because I just can't imagine any non-murderer doing that, dude. Like, in a shower, just, I need to enunciate. I need to enunciate.
That's how you get better at things. Practice.
Okay, that's not wrong. It's the situation in which you practice, you know? It's the way you practice.
I practice my hellos in the shower, too.
Oh, yeah, you told me that, too. That's just not like me, you know? That's different. It's okay.
You gotta warm up and then practice and then, improve.
Yeah, I guess we could just move on by that one, you know? You talk to yourself in the shower. It's just difficult.
Yeah, but I've been practicing, like, just trying to enunciate better because I noticed that I'll cut midway through words just to spaghetti out more words.
I've noticed you do the whatever thing, but it's just kind of a natural. I don't even think it's the podcast. It's just a conversation thing.
I think it is. I think that's just a natural part of how I speak.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try on this podcast to speak a little slower to give me more time to enunciate.
So you sound 50% more like a radio host or something when you talk slower. So maybe that's your thing. Know.
It's hard though, because I just speak at that speed normally.
I think we both talk fast.
We do, but you enunciate. Like, you get through all of your words.
Not always.
Before starting the next word.
Sometimes I get slurry AF, you know? It's like, sometimes I cut that stuff out, but other times I leave it and it's just like, they'll know what I said.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult. I wonder if doing the editing part will make me better at like being the posty person. If I notice like all the weird stuff that I do.
What's a weird thing I do? Because I've noticed some, I think.
I don't think you have very many weird things that you do, but occasionally I think you like slap your desk or something and it picks it up really well.
It's this.
Which is fine. Yeah. Occasionally you'll do that in the middle of speaking though, and there's just nothing I can do about it, and I'm just like, all right.
Yeah,
this is happening.
There's another time I think where I was doing like this, and anyway, I'm doing it now. But anyway, I think you could hear it in the thing. But yeah, it's tough because I don't know. On some level, I need to turn the gain up on my mic because I don't talk very loudly. But if I turn the gain up, you can hear everything that happens in this room, which is like, oh, I'm scratching my leg, and you can hear that really crystal clear on the mic.
Jesus. Yeah. No, I don't know. I didn't really think there was anything that you did that messed it up. Like, I didn't cut most of the stuff that you did. I muted out like whenever I heard the clicking. Basically, was like the thing. But yeah,
like you said, I think editing will make us both better at making stuff that we don't need to edit out. Yeah, absolutely. Because editing takes a lot more time than I thought it did. Yeah.
Like, I really thought it was like, okay, like 4 hours. Like a listen through, like cut some stuff, and then you're good to go. And then Tuesday night, I was like, I forgot to add music. I have to figure out how to do that. It's like the struggle of doing that.
What was your process, I guess, for it? Like, did you listen to it without edits? Like, what did you do?
So basically, I was going to listen to it without edits. I was just going to put the two soundtracks together. But the problem with that is that we started at different times, and so they were totally off sync. And so the first thing I had to do was sync them up. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm already in edit mode. I might as well keep editing. And so at that point onwards, I was just like on edit duty, and I was just like editing at that point. So I was just listening through and like making cuts here and there, and then listening back over the cuts to make sure that it was okay.
How'd you like Audacity?
I thought it was good. I watched a YouTube video. I mean, you gave me a pretty thorough walkthrough, and then I watched a YouTube video of a dude mixing a like short snippet using Audacity. And so I was just like, oh, okay, I see how you're supposed to do this. Yeah,
there's like weirdness about it, but I do like Audacity. I was kind of surprised. I was expecting you to come back with a bunch of questions after our initial like little talk about how to do it in Audacity. No questions for like a day, and then you just send me the edited thing. It's like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was mechanically difficult to cut apart. It was just time consuming.
Yeah. Hey, you could also play stuff at like 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed, which is funny when you just hear yourself chipmunk voice the whole time.
My problem with that is that I feel like I would miss a lot of the like I wouldn't gain as much from re-listening to it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't notice like all of like how much the rate at which I speak messes me up when it comes to like understanding me.
Interesting. So that's tricky. I don't think I've ever had a point where I didn't understand you. The only time I don't hear what you say is because I literally don't hear what you say because Audacity cuts or not Discord cuts.
That's true, but we've talked to each other like almost every day for like 15 years or something at this point.
That's true.
You've known me for so long. I feel like we're used to each other's like quirks and stuff.
Quirks.
Like I was telling somebody like I think we've been friends to the point that we specialize interests. Like we don't have that much overlap in things that we like really.
That's not true. I mean, we like a lot of the same things. We also don't like a lot of the same things. But like the Venn diagram of us is like maybe 50% overlap.
Yeah. But I mean, like the 50% that we don't have, like I definitely am like, I'll rely on Joseph to provide me with this kind of knowledge, like rap music and stuff. Like I don't even try sometimes, like hip hop and things like that. I'd rather just listen to you tell me about it than to go and try to figure it out on my own.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. If I ever want to know about history or like poetry or some artsy type.
I don't know anything about poetry.
You like poet, or no? You just like reading stuff. You like artsy.
I do like reading.
What's the other thing? Yeah. It's not a poem. What's the thing that you read?
Epic poems?
Yeah, that's a poem.
I mean, it's a poem in that it's not prose. Like it's poetry more than prose.
So you're saying that you read poetry, but you don't read poetry?
I when you say you read poetry, people think you're like go to a nightclub where people are wearing black and white and they talk about lasagna and then everyone snaps. All right. When epic poems are like Gilgamesh and the Iliad and the Odyssey, like there's stuff that people were forced to read at school and they hate, and I really liked it.
Did you like that stuff before you were forced to read it in school?
No, the first time I ever read one was the Odyssey, and I really liked it. And then I think you or JC were like, oh, we had to read the Iliad for our class. Do you want to read it? And you lent me your copy of the Iliad, and I read that one too, like in a night, almost.
That must have been JC. I didn't read a single book in high school.
Yeah, and so I read those two. And then, like, I think 2 years ago or something, I got Paradise Lost because that one is, like, the most iconic one of the last few years. I think it's, like, the most recent epic poem anyway.
What makes an epic poem an epic poem?
It's an epic, I think partially from how long it is, but also from, like, the material it covers. So, like, Paradise Lost is literally just follow Satan around.
Cool.
Yeah, it's like, it starts off with him laying in, like, a big swamp and being like, yo, do you guys want to try rising up against God again? And all the other demons are like, what is wrong with you? We got blasted last time we tried. And is like, I'm going to try again. And it's like the whole thing is just his journey trying to get out of hell. And I don't, like, it's super iconic because it's also, like, talks a little bit about, like, it adds to the mythos around, like, Catholicism a little bit.
Interesting.
It's you'd be surprised how much when you read one of those, it's like, oh, so many, like, books and movies and TV shows and, like, music, like, references it, like, without even knowing that they reference it, maybe. That's kind of like what I like about it. It's like the original stories, basically.
Yeah. That is cool. I think the like subject matter of all those stories seems really interesting. The barrier for me has always been the way it's written. Like, I just cannot read that form of English.
Yeah, it's super difficult and also sometimes like incredibly dense. Like, and that's the part that's like it's like poetry more than it's not like a novel where they'll be like, oh, this person walked out on the ice rink and skated. It'll be like they'll tell you that, but with much more imagery and colorful, basically, and like allusions and metaphors and allegory. And it's I don't know, I like it.
Yeah. What is Dante's Inferno considered?
It's a comedy. I don't think it's an epic poem.
Is it a comedy and a tragedy? The whole thing. That's I guess I'm asking because that reminds me of the whole, like, you know, what you said, things get referenced constantly and people might not even know it. When people talk about like the ninth circle of hell or whatever it's called, or like the sixth level, like that's from that. And that's probably the only book that I got anything out of when I like skimmed through it or, you know, Googled it before a test or whatever in school. But like actually reading that thing is kind of the same thing. Like I just cannot read it.
Yeah. It's dense. It's not an easy thing to read, but I think that if you get into it, it's nice because you'll see something like you'll watch a movie and be like, oh, here they're not maybe not purposefully referencing it, but like this is a reference to like this scene from this book or like this part from this book, and it's kind of like cool. Yeah. Like basically anytime they have two heroic characters, like on both sides, or if they have two opposed characters, almost always that's a reference to the Iliad because you had Hector and Achilles and like their struggle and stuff like that. I don't know. I love stuff like that. Like just getting down to like why that stuff is the way it is, kind of.
Yeah, well, I like sneakers, so you know we kind of balance each other.
You do. I think it's important. Like, I don't know. My brother looks up to you.
Because it's funny because he literally looks down to me. He's so tall.
He is so tall. Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, what else is new with you, man?
Speaking of sneakers, I wore my Yeezys to Valentine's last night, and I was the only person in there. Like that, I was way underdressed. Me and Zenobia were just kind of showed up in some regular stuff. She had like a red blouse and some pants. And I had some pants and a black sweatshirt and some Yeezys. And everybody else was wearing like sport coats and nice dresses and all this kind of stuff. So me and Zenobia were kind of just chilling. Anyway, that's our vibe.
I think it's a power move.
Yeah.
To show up and just like, yo, feed me.
But yeah, anyway, that
Not
was
only were you there like feed me, you were also like dance for me.
It was like this weird thing. One lady came out and she had this baton that she was lighting on fire on both ends, and she was putting it into her mouth and then maintaining the flame in her mouth and using it to light another baton. It was insane. It was like,
what?
I was like, what part of Greece is this?
That's the car engine, Joseph.
Yeah.
If you understood the metaphysics of it.
Yeah, that was the race part of it.
It's a race in Greece.
Yeah, when they build up the car, right? The whole Grease Lightning part, when they build the car to be like good, and then they race that jerk guy. I'll give you $2 for the car. That includes the chick. Oh my god, dude! You should watch Grease. I don't know if you'd like. Do you like musicals?
I love musicals. Well, I like musicals. I wouldn't say love.
I'm not a musical person. I think I've seen Hairspray, and I've seen maybe one or two other things that I didn't really care much for, but Grease is my all-time favorite. Like, before high school, I watched Grease thinking that high school would be like Grease, and that made me even more bummed when high school wasn't like Grease.
Would you have rather high school been like cliquey? I don't know if Grease is cliquey or not.
Our high school was relatively cliquey. It was like different tiers of nerds. It was like the popular nerds, there was the nerds, there was like the math nerds, then there's like the weeb nerds. You know, there's like nerds.
And we hung out with all of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Except for the cool nerds. We didn't know any. Oh, we did know one of those.
We knew some cool nerds. We just weren't in their circle like that. But everybody was like relatively cool with each other, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't really like that bad because our high school was small. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
I've been watching a lot of NoobTube. I've told you about this podcast, right?
I don't think so, actually.
Speaking of what's up with me, this is my next thing. So I love the Giant Bombcast. I talked about that before. But before I listened to the Giant Bombcast, there was another podcast I used to love. And it's called NoobTube, NoobToob. And it's these two guys, just like they used to work at a tech company in the Bay Area. They did a podcast together where they just talked about video games and very low viewership in the beginning. And then they just kind of grew into this whole other thing. And eventually they moved apart and they stopped the podcast as a result. But anyway, it's like, I love that. I was like 12 years old playing video games and listening to that podcast constantly. And so I've been going back and re-listening to those, or it's a video podcast, so rewatching those from the beginning and taking more inspiration, I guess, the same way I did from the Giant Bombcast. It's like, these guys are really off the cuff. They just turn the camera on, get a box of wine, and go for like an hour talking about video games. So I've been kind of trying to channel that energy, you know, like really not caring because they really didn't care. But yeah, no, that's been fun. That video that I have up on my YouTube channel of like Hamsif, that was my video submission to NoobTube, the podcast, because they have this thing where people send in a question, or, you know, whatever your viewer question, and at the end of the question, you always say "yow," like YOW. And so people would do that in text submissions or whatever, but then in the videos, people would get more and more insane with the way that they said "yow" and add more energy to it. But I was like a 10-year-old munchkin, so "yow," you know, like that little. But anyway, just wanted to mention NoobTube. Shout out to NoobTube. I have no idea what those guys are doing these days. I do, actually. I think I'm friends with them on Facebook. That's like how deep I was into the fandom.
This man's deep.
Yeah. But no, that's pretty much all that's up for me. I've been playing Max Payne. Didn't do a whole lot else. Been watching NoobTube. And Valentine's Day.
Nice. Very nice. I started making a choose your own adventure.
Nice.
So I'm working on that.
What's the theme, or do you have one yet?
So the premise is basically like what would happen if like World War One happened effectively in like a medieval society. Like it's like swords and knights and stuff like that, but like a continent-wide war happened and just like a huge amount of people like died in the war and the aftermath and stuff like that. And so like what would happen if like a UN basically gets formed after that with all these like medieval lords and stuff, and they're trying to figure it out. It's like this choose your adventures, like you're either a hero from like before, during, or after that war, and you're trying to find out like your way in the world basically.
Interesting. What was what's the reasoning? Like what made you want to do that?
I like to write, but I get too busy to do like National Novel Writing Month. Basically every year I'm like, I have an idea for a novel I want to write, and then either like the first few days are terrible, and I just don't have time to write, or like midway through I just can't finish or something like that. So it's like there's no way I'm going to be able to finish a whole month's worth, but I can write a choose your own adventure kind of like in chunks, because it is kind of like in chunks. So I can just like chunk it out like that.
Do you have like a path for a story? Like, do you have a beginning, middle, and end generally, and all these kind of branches within it, or?
I don't think it's going to be like a story. I think the idea is just supposed to be like you go through and you like make your choices, and like you're supposed to like imagine how the rest of the story plays out, and like you're supposed to like fill in the in-betweeny gaps and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like a whole subreddit for it, and so like I think if I like where it's at, I will put it up on that subreddit.
Oh, so it's just text. You're not actually making like an interface for it.
Yeah, so it's like text and images and stuff like that, but it's basically like, so like you basically like choose. So okay, so like the first thing is I give you like the little rundown on the world. Basically, it's like a little snippet, and I'm like, this is the world you're in. Then it's like first prompt is like, when did you become a hero? And it was like before the war, during the war, or after the war. And the next prompt would be like, what was your heroic deed? And like what like broad topic was your heroic deed over? And it's like martial strength, like shadowy thingy, like magic, like exploration, and like just a bunch of different options. And then I basically just like let you like a pathway to build your character and also like fill in some of the world, and then that's it. It's not like it's not like a book or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have time to like write a whole book, apparently.
Yeah.
Or the attention span, I guess.
I really like Choose Your Own Adventures, like the old Goosebumps books that had that kind of stuff. I thought was those were really awesome. Those were like my favorite things in the library at my school. I tried actually making a Choose Your Own Adventure once, and I just remember how like crazy it got with all the potential branches. So I guess I was just wondering like how you approach the. You got to keep making content. Like, what's your end goal? I guess like how does this thing end?
I think for me, the end is going to be just like the final prompt, which I know what it's going to be. So like, I know the end point, like the last question. And it's like, I just need to work my way. And I know the first question. So I'm like kind of working my way from the top and the bottom, trying to find the like, what's the breaking even point? Like, when do I think you know enough about the world and your character to like do the last prompt?
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Among the other things that I'm also randomly working on.
That's like the developer lifestyle where it's like, yeah, I just have a bunch of side projects all the time and none of them will ever be done. I just do this.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. All right, you ready to hop into home games?
Home game stuff.
Woo.
One sec, I have to test my mom real quick.
I'll go for it. I'll start talking.
Okay.
So basically, I was doing some of the setup work for Square. So I put out a PR that made changes to colors.js. And I also put out like not a testing framework, but it is like a testing file, like a little test runner, basically. And also I wrote some tests for colors.js. And then Joseph commented on that this morning. So I need to go through and address those, and hopefully we can get that merged in. And then I'll I'll figure out what else I have to peel out from that Square branch, and move to the new repos. And then I'll I'll rebase my code or whatever on the new branch, and then I'll go from there. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, my comment on the colors thing was just it was a simple thing on the tests. It was just need the exclusion stuff. And anyway, I commented the whole thing. But yeah, other than that, looks good. You have your comments on my pull request also, which I never noticed this GitHub feature before. I don't know if it's relatively new or what, but you have like your suggestions for code changes, and it allows me to commit directly what you suggested.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you get a co-author thing on that PR? Do you like get your own commit? I guess if it says commit these changes, I guess it would.
I have no idea, actually. I could look. We do that. I learned that at work, basically, because we do that kind of stuff at work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've seen, we do suggestions and we'll type out code snippets and stuff, but I never knew that you could like actually propose a actual code change within GitHub.
It's kind of sick.
Yeah.
But you can only propose one on a changed line of code. You can't propose one on a non-changed line of code.
So not just like adding stuff here.
Yeah, you have to be like, on this line that you changed, I suggest you do that change this way or something like that.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So you have those things, and I was going through them this morning because, like I said earlier, I didn't really have a whole lot of time for home game stuff this week, and realized that I was just like go through and commit everything from your comments directly, but then there was the add player, remove player should all have like the HG underscore whatever, which would just require like a refactor, and it just sounded boring, so I didn't want to. So I'll do that today or tomorrow because it should be quick. I just didn't feel like it this morning. Anyway, so that should be good to go soonish. And then, yeah, the whole square thing, like you said, kind of get us back to a good, normal point to kind of go from there again, because we are not currently there.
Yeah, I think once we get onto the V2, it'll be smoother sailing, basically.
Yeah, hopefully at least. It is at a point where I'm not super worried about it not working anymore, which is good. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I added a game in source/games, and I added it in, index.js or whatever, and it just shows up in the dashboard, and I click into it and it'll load, and that's a cool feeling of like not having to wonder why, if I click home too fast, the whole thing crashes and my computer gets hot, type stuff. So
nice. Oh, also, did you see? I'll have to comment in my PR about how I can't figure out how to get the node or npm test thing in package.json to work properly.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I, in theory, should be able to say like just /star.test.js. Doesn't work. No clue why.
I thought that was because of you said the actual npm script or something else.
It's the npm script that I can't get to work.
Is it because
like when I run npm test, when it was with the /star, it was saying like that file doesn't exist, and I don't know why.
Is it because it's running it from the root of the project? So like where the package.json is, it's relative to that, as opposed to where you run
even
it
if
from.
it is, I did like the /tests or test/star dot whatever.
But is that maybe it's from where you run it then? I don't really know. I don't know anything about npm really.
No, I don't either. I don't know. I was thinking maybe it was another Windows issue. Because remember we had that one where I can't run the server and the game at the same time. The app server and the game server.
Wait, why not?
Like I couldn't use your like npm run command.
Oh yeah. I think that's because it's a bash specific thing of like, run this and then on the exit code of this, then do its other thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's similar to that. Yeah. I'm not sure. And I tried to look it up, but whenever you type in npm test not working they just take you to the Google pages are always just like, well, I don't know, man. And then when you go in there, it's like, did you install node.js? And they're like, no. It's like, okay, well that's not my problem.
Those scripts are just conveniences. It's like npm run script thing will just run some command in whatever environment, so it's really just an alias. Like npm run server is just the same as if you were to run node thing and node thing, and that doesn't work on the actual machine. I don't think it would work through npm.
I wonder if that's the problem then. I wonder if it's Windows specific. That sucks.
You might need to add like a run Windows or something. It does a specific.
Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't really matter.
Or we can change the way we write our tests so you don't take it. You can. Well, I don't know. Unsure. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, either way, I mean, we need to have a better way to run scripts on Windows, like regardless of tests and stuff.
Do you like that testing framework, by the way? Like that one that I kind of just stole from that man's blog?
Was it actually a new dependency, or was it?
No, it's not a dependency. It's the testrunner.js file. It's super simple, but I don't know if you wanted to take that approach or if you wanted to take your approach with your test.js file.
Let me see, because I didn't even look at the test runner thing. I just looked at the tests. 1 second. Yeah, I mean, this thing is just iterating through files and going through them. Isn't that like, couldn't I just do like a test index.js and then that loads in all of my other dependencies, like import tests dot whatever?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about doing. But with this, you could specify which test file you want to run, so you can run them individually.
Couldn't you also do that if it was like, test index.js is just like import all of these things and then iterate through every one of them and then .run or whatever. But you can also just have like a main in each of your tests and then like node the file direct, like node blah 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 test.js instead of index.js.
Oh.
I don't know. This isn't necessarily wrong or bad. I guess I just don't know like what a good practice would be.
I think that if we don't want to use like a pre-built framework and we wanted to home roll our own, I think this is good enough. Probably. I think maybe we might run into problems if we're using asynchronous functions and testing async functions, because right now that doesn't support that. So we'd have to make some modifications to do that. But I don't think those modifications would be difficult or anything.
Well, to test an async, wouldn't you just do... Oh, you're saying that you can't even define an async function within the test?
You could, but we don't, because the test run itself is not asynchronous, it would try to run it synchronously. And so you couldn't await in there.
But if I say, like...
Because if you name your internal function that you pass into that test function, because that test function takes in two things. The string, which is the name of the test, and then the other thing, which is the function to run, like the testing function. If the testing function is asynchronous, and we go to run it synchronously, because we just call it synchronously, we'll have a problem.
Oh, like it would just return the promise and then not actually wait for it. Got it. I don't know. That just seems like abstracting the idea of like a function call is really what we would be doing too. But this is just iterating files, and I don't know. It seems basically what we want. I think my hesitation is just that it just came from some dude on the internet. And I don't like people on the internet.
It does, but I think it made sense. I read a couple, and his made the most sense, basically. Especially because of how slim it was. I was like, this is ideal, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably...
It was also an easy conversion, because in my original Square branch, I used Mocha.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jest. I don't remember which one.
I think it was Mocha.
Yeah. And then in this one... I just had to convert that test into this kind of format, and it was actually like super simple. Like it wasn't difficult at all.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I'll add comments to this or whatever later, but as of right now, I don't really know.
Nice.
Yeah, home game stuff. Cool. So, are you done with Square? Like in terms of the actual game?
No, I still need to make some cleanup. I need to do some cleanup, but I want to convert it over to V2 before I clean it up. Basically, what I wanted to implement was the state queue. So each thing pushed into the queue, and then each tick I consumed the queue, was kind of how I wanted to approach it. So that we could avoid situations where players are moving and they would be jumping over each other instead of stacking up against each other, because that's an issue I know I'm going to run into right now.
I remember that whole thing now.
Mm-hmm. So once I convert it over completely to V2, then I think I need to do some cleanup work on Square. So then once that's done, then Square will be done. And then I need to add like a leaderboard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
After each level.
Nice. So, okay. A leaderboard that would just persist for the session?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
you can only go up to level 9.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking of like, it's an interesting thing because it'll come up later, I think, too, of say that the game is made for 4 people max and there's 8 people there, so that you have 2 sessions of a Square, and it's like, oh, the high score for Square is 40, but it's only 40 in this session and it's 70 in another, and they don't know about each other's best. I'm not saying that we need to fix that. I'm just saying that's like a consideration, I guess. I'm not suggesting anything either way. I'm literally just saying that that's something.
I feel like at that point we probably would say like you might want to run like a tournament style match or something, heats basically, because if, for example, like you had 8 people, 4 were really good at video games, 4 were not very good at video games, or sorry, you have 2 teams of 4. All 4 people in one group were okay at video games. On the other one, there were 3 people who didn't play video games and 1 person who does, right? So the person who does is obviously going to get a higher score than than whoever the leader is from the other 4, because they're more likely to take a game off from each other than that person is who's good at video games to drop a game. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
So I don't know about like overarching like score
Yeah.
between sessions.
Yeah, I mean, even if it wasn't score, like, I guess in a general sense, does a game need to know information about other instances of itself?
I don't think the game needs to know about any other game that's running.
Yeah.
I think the server needs to know, but mostly for like heartbeat monitoring and stuff like that.
I think, yeah. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I don't know. There's just a bunch there. Like, I think eventually we'll have to persist a game if it's like, okay, well, I don't know, man. I actually don't know if
Like
we
an
will have to
adventure
persist.
game?
No, not an adventure game. I'm just thinking of there will come a day when someone will want to make a game where something is there the next time it comes up. Like, something has changed the next time it comes up. And so you'll need to have a way to store files. And you already kind of do by defining assets that will create and cache local files on disk. And so it's like, okay, well, if we have this, then maybe we have some other kind of, you know, remember how in CS 127B or whatever it was, when we did that game, or we had that game stub thing, and we had to basically write the method that would read and write the save file of, like,
Yes.
saving game state. That basically, on some level, we had to, like, if we wanted to allow this, we would have to write that kind of same thing for us here, of like some interface to say what's your game state, and like a, you know, save and load basically implementation, and we handle all the actual storage of that thing underneath. And then when you get load, it's just like, okay, well, there was a state before, recover from it.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we probably will, but we could probably just store a stringified version of the game tree.
Yeah, we could as like a basic, or we could store the squished version on thing. We'd actually have a binary file of the entire game state, which is pretty nuts.
That'd be pretty good, I think.
But you wouldn't have other things like some sort of state maintained outside of that game tree, something just in memory for the game instance at that time.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't even think that would work, because we only store the player ID, and each time a player joins, they get a new ID.
Oh yeah.
So people would have to, we'd have to do a mapper between like this, which player is which player. Basically.
That sounds gross. I don't want to do that.
Actually, that shouldn't be too bad. Okay, because we don't store the names. I think we can't store the compressed version. We need to store the like uncompressed, like full tree, because in the tree if we store the players, we would store their name and their ID. Right? And then we could say like, you get to map up like which player goes to which player. It's like in our loading game state process, we'd say like, which one of you is this player name? Which one of you is this player name? Which one of you is this player name?
But then
we could map it that way.
Names aren't unique though.
They don't have to be, but most likely, when we get to the point where people can change their own name, I think that they probably would be. I don't think two people are going to name themselves the same thing.
They totally could though. I mean,
they could.
Yeah, I mean, they could. If everybody wants to name themselves, but we can't really do that. I just think maybe instead of us,
could we enforce uniqueness on names?
I don't think we need to, because a player ID and a player are ephemeral, I guess. Like a person, but I'm talking about game state. Like this game has 430 past sessions, and for some reason my game likes to have that number in the corner. I'm thinking just like some example of something in the game that I want to persist, not necessarily a player relationship to that thing, because it's like, I don't think I'm talking about saving like your state of a level and saying, well, player X was at 50% on level 3, and therefore I have to remember that this game was at 50% on level 3, and that these nodes belong to player X, and when someone reconnects, player Y is actually player X, and I know this. Like, that seems like something that might not actually have any. It kind of seems like a whole other kind of problem of like single player save games or something like that. Instead of, something saved that is not this. I don't know what an example of that would be, because I don't know what game developers want.
I think if we were just storing like information like that, then we can do it. Where we just store the tree. But I feel like people will want to be able to store maybe like high score or the total score for the players or something like that. Like imagine like a really long game where you have like a building score and people want to save that and like pick it up or something like that.
That's what I mean. So like a game could implement a save and load, and a save is just give us the object and we'll handle all the storage stuff for you. Don't worry about that. And then a load just receives an object, and you can, you just recover your own game state. We don't assume anything about what you're doing.
Yeah, I like that part, but then we'd force people to figure out how to implement. I think it's like back to the library idea, where if we were going to implement that, we should probably also like implement a way of mapping player IDs, and then that we give them the option to call that function.
But you cannot have a mapping of player IDs. Because
the current player IDs to the old player IDs. Because if somebody is saving it, in theory, those same people will be joining back in, and so it'll be up to them to figure out like which player is actually connected to which other player.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I want to support that necessarily, because I don't think that's the right way to save the game. Like a player's specific state in a specific part of the game, or like whatever, I don't think should be persisted, because the whole point is that it's like just this session, just this whatever. But if someone wants to save something else, because I'm just thinking about the fact that a player ID is just a number that starts at 0 when you start up a server, and you could do name or whatever, but that's another, it's not gonna work 100% of the time. And unless you want to do this thing of like on player connection, I guess you can have like a local map of your history of player IDs and all this kind of stuff, or you could do something else like the device IP address or something of who connected, but those change, so you don't really have that either.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, if we're not have to worry about that stuff, then I think we're good. The other way we could do it too, where in metadata for the game, we say like, you can write to like, do you want to load from a JSON file? And we allow them to have like a JSON file of stuff that they want to push to and load from. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe metadata just defines the save path, and then they just implement save and load themselves or something like that. But we don't need this at all yet. This is one of those things where we're just talking about potential.
When we get there, we'll get there. Yeah.
If we ever do.
I also have another idea for a game, by the way.
Sure.
Okay, so the way the game works is that everyone's on their cell phone, and they get a phrase or a crazy combination of letters, and they have to type it as fast as they can, and the person who wins gets a point. And then the next word comes around, and you gotta type as fast as you can again.
So it's like typing of the dead or something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But direct competition with your friends.
Yeah, that'd be funny. You could also, is it just cell phones?
I mean, I would prefer it to be just cell phones, because if somebody's on a PC and everyone else on a cell phone, the PC is going to wreck.
Everything you just said cut out for me, because Discord is a nightmare.
Oh, I was going to say, I think only cell phones, because if there was somebody on PC, they would absolutely ruin everyone who's on cell phone.
Maybe you could have like a device type competition, so it's like PC against PC. It's like Call of Duty crossplay or whatever. Ooh, you could opt in to competing with other devices.
That would be pretty sick, actually.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
What do you think?
Yeah, that'd be fun. I think I was actually just playing this past week some typing based like RPG thing where instead of attacking, you just type whatever's on the screen. It's kind of weird, but I like those kind of games. I think it's actually super fun. So
yeah, I think it'd be even funnier is if it wasn't actual words, it was just random strings of letters, and you really had to, and it didn't tell you if you messed up until you got to the last character.
Yeah, kind of like Space Team, how it's like all those words once they get more intense, it's just none of them are English anymore.
Yeah, and you got to like really figure out how to like say it in a way that Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah.
And also, like, fast to implement.
Yeah, the typing stuff, getting the kind of good performance, because if it's about, really, really good typing experience, then that'll be kind of difficult because the way it is now, like I've mentioned before, but it reads the input way too fast. And so I add like an actual timeout on it. So like, okay, there's a cooldown on this key for 50 milliseconds, or unless they pulled their, there's a key up event or something like that. So if you hold down the key, only every 50 milliseconds does it go down, but then there's kind of like this weird state tracking of the key when it's there, and I don't know how that impacts performance, and I don't know. I think that'll be a challenge, but in a good way, to see how like good typing can get,
Nice. Okay, so I don't want to put Square on hold because I know what's going to happen if I put it on hold. It'll die. And I don't want it to die because I actually am really proud of that game.
Yeah.
I'll figure something out. Maybe I'll ask JC. Maybe I'll tell JC to implement that game and I'll help him do it.
Yeah, we are the only ones that want to work on this stuff, though. I don't think we could just force someone else to finish it.
Well, JC said that he wanted to learn how to, but that he didn't know where to start. So maybe I'll be like, I have an idea for a game, so you don't have to think of an idea. I'll help you like implement, and we'll go from there.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I don't know. But before we do that, I need to do at least some of the basic work to convert squares so that I know the V2 setup stuff. Because if JC has a question, I can't be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you guys could also get me. I'm like available most of the time.
Yeah. Well, it's less like we don't want to like hit you up. It's more of like if I don't know the answer to that, I can't be asking JC to make the game. At that point, like I should have been the one who made the game, because if I was in a struggle to do it, then I should have struggled to do it,
I don't know. You can both help each other learn new stuff, like go through the process of figuring out how to change stuff that might be valuable for JC. I don't know.
I have
no idea.
I'll see if he's interested in doing that.
Probably not. Yeah, I guess.
Or Alex, maybe.
I sent Alex a happy Valentine's text yesterday. He didn't respond.
That sounds like Alex.
Kind of upset.
Alex doesn't want to be your Valentine?
I guess not. But then I was looking through the last conversation that we had via text, and he sent me it was a cartoon sexually graphic image, and I didn't ask for it. And I realized why I don't text Alex.
All right, you ready to move on to Song of the Week?
I have home game stuff real quick.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So one of the things, like I mentioned last week, is that I have a guy kicking. I'm basically building like a single dungeon room. So I'm building, like I'm drawing up these enemy sprites and trying to think of what their attack patterns are. Like there's no jumping. It's all just a big 2D plane. So there is no flying really, because everything is just XY. So thinking about like what different enemies do and how they move, and do they shoot, and do they have kind of different like defenses and whatever. And what I have right now is just, like I mentioned earlier, I have the guy that moves full XY, and he does the kick animation, and I have another thing that I drew up that looks like absolute garbage, but it's technically an enemy. I don't even know what you'd call it, but it just stands there. And it's super basic, but the collision detection thing is, when these two things collide, if your guy is in the state of kicking, then that thing dies. If you're not, then you die. And it's very basic. And you kill it, you can go and kick it, it goes away, and then there's another one that will appear elsewhere on the screen. And you go follow that one, you kill it, and that's all I have. He just moves around the screen and kills the same thing. And then if you die, you respawn in the center. That whole thing. It's like crazy basic. But I realized, like, this is a whole thing of like collision detection is just everything is a rectangle now, like you've mentioned before, because that's how all of the underlying things are represented, is this location, this whatever is a box. And that's okay in something like a square where you collide with a rectangle, and it makes sense because you just collided there. But if you have something like a sprite, something like a walking guy, well, think about just like a stick figure. If this thing is a rectangle, then it really is anything like the outer boundary of the polygon that this thing makes rectangle that this thing makes is its hitbox, not the actual body that you see on the sprite. So kind of realizing that we need to have the underlying polygon be a polygon and not a rectangle, just any kind of thing of here's an XY coordinate to another XY coordinate to another XY coordinate in an array, creating a closed loop of coordinates. There's a format called GeoJSON, which is just JSON with lat long coordinates, basically, to create polygons and lines and different types of shapes and all this kind of stuff. And it's basically it's called like a closed line string. It's the same thing, except it's lat long coordinates instead of XYs. But there's a math thing to do to see if they intersect and all this other kind of stuff. It's like polygon math and all this whatever kind of stuff, like video game stuff, which I think we'll need to do. To thinking of something even just as simple as like an enemy that's a triangle. You couldn't have that with our current thing.
No, we couldn't.
Or an enemy that's a circle, anything that's not a rectangle. So that might be one of the changes that I make in the near future. Maybe just
a rectangle that's on a diagonal.
Yeah, anything that's not just like a plane represented as a flat rectangle.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. That's basically where that's at.
Yeah, I think that would be a good update, though.
Yeah.
Because when we have sprites and stuff, like, that's really what it's going to come down to, is, like, how closely you can mirror the edge of your sprite to your polygon.
Yeah.
That's a hitbox. Yeah.
And even if it's not, because, like originally we said that we don't want to make super active, crazy games that would require this kind of stuff, but I think that this is, like, just allowing it so we can. So even the stuff that doesn't take advantage of it benefits from it. You know what I mean? Just because it's a better version of what it is. So I don't know. I just think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'll probably finish out my one little proof of concept of guy kicking sprite and killing sprite, and then make a commit for that. And there's something that you can do that's not a pull request. Didn't we talk about this? But it's like, anyway, I'll do something and it'll be kind of the equivalent of the milestone check-in that you wanted, where it'll be essentially all the code that you're already familiar with, but it'll be a room and you can play this and test it and make sure that collision detection works, and then maybe the next one after that, or maybe in the same one, I don't know, will be the polygon stuff.
I like that. I think that if you just put out a PR and then, like, as your milestone, and just like, I know it's a POC, or in your description just call it POC or something like that, and then that way as you make updates, I can see, okay, like, this is how he's building it out. I don't know, because it's easier for me to do that than it is to go through the commit logs. But whatever works for you, man. Like, if you would rather just do, like, big commits or, like, small commits, I'll read through your commit logs. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, but no worries. Even just having an incremental thing to keep you updated with something where it's not like, next week I'm going to tell you about whatever I did, and you don't really know because you couldn't see it or play it or anything. So if I have something out where you can actually, check it out, git checkout, and see what it's like, then you can kind of go along with me instead of me just like dumping a bunch of code on you, and you have to not only learn the code, but you have to learn what it is and how it works.
Yes, I appreciate.
Also, Snovia's talking on the phone pretty loud in the other room, so if that picks up on the mic, then well, whatever.
No worries. Hopefully she's not like reading off her social security number while you're talking.
That's on Sunday. She does that. Saturdays. It's just our
she
addresses.
Stands in the shower and just practices her social security number.
Yeah. Also, for editing, what do you want the schedule to be like? Because it's like, Joseph edited 16, Yazeed edited 2. Like, maybe just do one swap off, or like chunks of 5, or...
I think chunks of 5 would probably be best, so that you can get like a month-long break.
Oof.
And then I can get a month-long break.
Very nice.
And also that keeps it like somewhat consistent. Right? Because like my editing versus your editing, there's going to be differences. Like, I'm a little bit more loose than you were.
Yeah. Sure, I think that works. So I'll edit what is this one? 17. So then 18, 19, 20.
You'll 21.
I'll edit starting at 21. You'll get the big
or
2-0.
I'll edit 21. You'll do 22.
Wait, are you editing this one?
Yeah.
So you did 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So then I would do 21.
Oh, whoops. All right. Math major, by the way. All right. You ready to go on to Song of the Week?
Song of the Week.
Aw, yeah.
Sponsored by Milano's, but not really, because that bag has been in the frame of your camera the entire time we've been talking.
Oh, really?
Just for a video podcast, it'd be big bucks for us, you know?
It would be. You know what? Red Bull is a really easy sponsor to get, I've seen.
Red Bull is a really what?
Easy sponsor to get.
I don't want a Red Bull sponsor. I don't want any sponsors.
Do you remember when we did the hackathon and we were living on Red Bull?
I think I was doing Monster. Maybe it was Red Bulls. I don't remember.
Red Bull was the sponsor. And they literally just came around. They were like, "You want a Red Bull or a snack?" And every time we'd be like, "Red Bull, please."
It's crazy how unhealthy that was. Like, that was one of the most fun experiences of my life, but I seriously almost died.
Yeah. What a nightmare. I loved it, but what a nightmare.
One of my favorite things was when it was like 2 a.m. and it was freezing cold outside and we all were exhausted and we needed something to wake us up. So we tried to run. We all raced to Old Main from the whatever thing we were
Oh,
at.
yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it was such a stupid time. Anyway, that was a fun thing. And I remember sleeping in my car in like 20-degree weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Blondie sleeping on like 3 desks.
Yeah. Anyway, that hacker.
Actually, I remember the funniest part about that was when he was doing that, Connor looked at me and was like, "Is he okay?" And I was like, "Doesn't matter."
Everything is crazy. Everything you just said is gone. Like, the funniest part was, and then Discord selected.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. What did you say?
I was saying the funniest part was when Blondie was sleeping across 3 desks. Connor turned to me and was like, "Is he okay?" And I was like, "It doesn't matter. We just have to get this done." God damn.
That was a great time. I would love to do that again, but it's like I'm getting older. I can't do a 36-hour straight run of writing code anymore. Like trying to set up an email server ourselves. Like that's just
I could do that so much faster now.
Well, now you just use a service for it. Like you just hook it up to SES or something and it's like, okay, we're good.
Yeah. We didn't know. We really
didn't know.
Well, actually, we probably could have done that, but we didn't have Skrilla. We didn't have loose Skrilla. It's a lot easier when you have some sort of capital.
Didn't they give us some sort of AWS credit or some sort of sponsor gave us a cloud hosting credit?
They gave us a cloud hosting credit, but it was literally just a hosting credit. They didn't have services.
Well, whatever. That was a very fun time of our lives. We should do like a home games hackathon. One of these times where we're both in the same place. Spend like a weekend.
When you're in town, we can set it up.
Yeah.
Just Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Just live stream it the whole time.
God, we'll just podcast the whole time.
Yeah. Or eventually it becomes that uncomfortable thing where we get mad at each other. We're just like trying to keep it together on.
Well, you and I didn't get mad at each other.
No, I know. I got mad at Connor.
You and Connor got mad at each other.
Yeah. That's what happens when you put a bunch of like good friends together and give them a bunch of caffeine and put pressure on them, but also no pressure on them to do something.
I don't know. I mean, this is way better than the last time we worked on a major project together.
This is way better than last what?
The last time we worked on a major project together.
What's the last time we worked on a major project together?
The Mercer class.
Was that the last time we worked?
We had to make the game.
Well, that was terrible. Oh yeah, we never did our what is it called?
Going through the school code again.
Yeah, what'd you call it?
We'll store that for when we're in person because I feel like that's funnier.
Yeah.
But after that, I was like, I can never work with close friends again. But it's like it's really changed.
Yeah. In school, I really didn't know what I was doing like most of the time. I don't know how I got into the CS program. Anyway, song of the week.
What's your song of the week?
My song of the week is "Your Love Is My Drug" by Kesha. I went and rediscovered my love for Kesha. Went to her first album, And it's like, okay, well, let me see. Oh yeah, of course TikTok's a classic. Oh, of course Your Love Is My Drug is another really great one. Oh, but then she's got Take It Off. Oh, and then she's got Kiss and Tell, and then she's got blah blah blah. And that's just on her first album, you know. But Your Love Is My Drug.
Her first album was fire.
It was full of slaps, but
yeah.
That song is really good. I put it on in the car yesterday morning, and me and Synovia sang almost every word without any kind of like conversation about it before. It's just, you know.
What's the song with line hot and dangerous?
Hot and dangerous, can't with us. It's so mysterious, delirious. Is that one?
Yeah.
Is that blah blah blah? I don't know what that one is, but I know the song.
Everyone knows that song. I don't know the name of that song though.
Yeah. Anyway, Kesha.
If you think of it, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I'll go back and listen to more Kesha songs and try to find it. But anyway, that's my song of the week. Absolute classic.
That's a good song of the week, actually. My song of the week is Rain, but the acoustic version by Wild Light and the Polish Ambassador.
Where do you find this stuff?
Spotify.
Is it recommended to you, or is it like new releases?
Yeah.
Or
it was recommended to me. It's on my like Discover Weekly.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. It's like a folksy pop indie thing.
Like Mumford and Sons?
You know, a little bit.
Okay.
Less religious, more like but like similar vibes actually.
Okay. I like Mumford and Sons, so that's fine.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Awesome. Do you think your Discover Weekly playlist is actually good most of the time?
No. Of the 30 songs, I'll usually add like 5. That's like a 1 in 6 chance.
That's still a pretty good rate, I think. I mean, you know, every week you get 5 new interesting songs that you like enough to put on a thing and listen to again.
Yeah, you know what? That's true, but I don't know. Some of the songs that they give me are just like so out there. I'm like, what even is this?
Yeah. But there's a rapper. If you want to hear something, like me and Snow, we were just talking about this yesterday. For the first time ever in my life, I feel like I have encountered music that I truly do not get and will never get. And I might be in that thing of like, I'm too old for this. It's a rapper named 645AR. And he has a song. He has many songs, but one of his most popular ones at the moment is called For the Trap. Okay? This dude, rapper, pretty relatively generic subject matter or whatever, but his gimmick is that he uses this insanely high-pitched voice. He calls it his squeaky voice. And you know how, like, I've heard you do it before, but when you're like joking around, you can make your voice go really high pitch and make like an uncomfortable type of sound. Not just you specifically. Yes. I mean, anybody really in general can do this.
Oh, okay. You specifically make a really weird noise you seen.
No, but you can always strain your voice to go way high to the point where it sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. His whole rap style is in that voice. He just raps with that thing. And I was thinking when I first heard his stuff, like maybe a month ago or something like that, I was like, oh, you know, he's just putting his voice through a vocal effect thing, and that's it. Like, he's just rapping normal generic rap with an effect on it. But then I realized, because he did a video interview with Genius, like Rap Genius, and it's an interview about, or just like a video about the lyrics in that song or whatever, and he explains the lyrics. And he, you know, typically in those videos, they'll rap along to the words before they explain them. And he does the voice in the video, and there's no effect on it. He's just doing that voice. And you realize that this man is just on a whole other planet, you know? Like, it is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen become popular in music, I think. And I just don't get it. So you should look up 645AR for the Trap. Watch the video first, and then watch his Genius explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I had some time when I listened to Fake Names by Freddie Gibbs.
Hey, that's it. What did you think?
I liked the first half of the song and didn't like the second half.
Why didn't you like the second half?
I think the changeover was too drastic.
Okay.
Like when they changed like beat and stuff like that, I didn't like the changeover in that song.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think like every song I listen to has like almost a like I literally have 2 songs that I picked out this week from my Discover Weekly that you wouldn't even know they're 2 different songs. They sound so similar. And the song, like halfway through, they change, and it threw me off real hard.
Yeah, that's become a trend lately, especially in hip hop. Of like, you know, like Sicko Mode does it too, where you have your regular beat, and then you kind of switch it up into something else. There's, I can think of a few songs that have that kind of a thing just in recent memory. It's definitely a bummer when you like one half and not the other, because you can't separate.
Yeah, I really liked the first half though. Yeah. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna add this to my playlist after this. And then when the changeover happened, I was like, oh no. And then I was trying to find something else from him that I would like, and everything that he does seems to have like a change in tone or something halfway through.
Well, kind of like, so Pinata and Bandana are produced by Madlib, who's like a legendary hip-hop producer, just for the way that he has this kind of unique sound with these samples, and just the way he does it is very unique. And so Pinata and Bandana as a result have like really high critical acclaim or whatever, and people just love both of them and all this stuff. But I would say just listening to either of those albums front to back would give you like a pretty cool experience, like a good introduction to, you know, rap as it is today. At least like really interesting, good rap. But yeah, I don't know. Fake Names I just recommended off the top of my head because I think the line "shit's so real, gotta use fake names" is like an amazing thing for a song.
The opening of that song, I was really feeling it. I was like, hell yeah, like this is what I'm looking for in rap.
Dude, if that's the case, then you should listen to Bandana, like the whole album. Freddie Gibbs is really, really good. Yeah,
I like in your face rap, but I don't like when they change it up.
You should listen to like Killer Mike or Run the Jewels just in general, and you know.
I listen to Run the Jewels.
Yeah. What else?
It's like we talked about last week. I'd like to be able to like get into any genre.
Yeah.
Country, I don't even know where to start, because I do listen to some like indie folk, but I don't listen to like country at all.
Yeah.
And hip hop, like we've talked about, like I listen to a little bit here and there, but nowhere near as much as you do.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
You want to move on to What's Up Part 2?
Yeah, sure. What's Up Part 2? What's Up Part 2?
There we go.
Do your best.
Hit him with the radio voice.
Do your best radio voice.
Hello and welcome to. I don't have a good radio voice.
No, it wasn't the voice. It was seeing your face when you did it. You did like an eyebrow down because you wanted to.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, What's Up Part 2, though? I just realized I have nothing for What's Up Part 2, so What's Up Part 2, Yazeed?
I only have one thing for What's Up Part 2. I went to the gym the day before Valentine's Day, so Thursday. Empty, completely empty.
I can see that. Why would you go to the gym, you know?
Yeah, why would you? You already have someone. You're not here to. But yeah, I was there. It was me and like 3 old dudes. It was fine.
Nice. We have a gym next to us, and it's fun because we walk by it. Like we used to take the bus, and we would walk by it, and like January, the first week of January, would be packed. Second week of January, it's maybe like 80% of what it was. By February, it's back to dead. So it's funny, just like track. Like I don't go to a gym. I've never been to a gym. Well, I've never had a gym membership. I've been to a gym, but it's fun watching that people not caring about stuff, just like me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I liked the before Valentine's workout. It was great.
Yeah.
Although I was super sore yesterday, and this morning I woke up and I was like, ugh, I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah. I get that. I never want to get out of bed. I was just telling you earlier, I woke up at 7, but it's not my choice to do so. I just get up and I'm up, you know?
That's incredible to me. I wake up and I'm like, it's a struggle every time to get out of bed. Every time. Like I'm totally fine with going back to sleep.
On weekdays, I do that. It'll be like, oh, you know, I set an alarm for 5, and then it goes off, and I go back to sleep until 6, and then I regret it. And I just do that every day, and I just hope that my internal mental clock or whatever actually wakes me up at 6, because I don't have an alarm that was, I don't have a backup alarm.
Yeah, what I want to do is do wake up drills, which is basically to like set my alarm off, like lay in bed during the middle of like a Saturday or Sunday, have my alarm go off like every 15 minutes, turn off the alarm, get up, go into the bathroom, then go grab like a little cookie or something as like a reward, and then go back into bed and then do the whole process over again until like I've trained myself so when the alarm goes off, you have to get up.
Remember how I said you have the most serial killer-like tendencies out of anybody I know?
That's not serial killery. It's okay. That one might be. I'm literally training myself to get out of bed.
Like a dog, you're training yourself to like get up and go get your little cookie and then come back.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Do you? Whatever works. It's just funny because I know you very well, but I'm just imagining what someone, if I didn't know you and I just heard these things about you, be like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely a serial killer.
I wonder what it is about me as a person that I always pick the like least humane way to train myself to do something.
Because the least humane methods work the best, Yazeed. Everybody knows.
Yeah. Like, where do you practice? Like, does anyone else even practice saying hello? Or are they all prepped and ready to go first thing in the morning?
Does anyone what? Or are they prepped and ready to go?
Oh, does anyone else have to practice saying hello? Or are they, like, good to go in the morning?
When you say practice saying hello, I think you've told me this before, but it's like because when you go and say hello to people, you want it to be correct, like and sound energetic or whatever.
Yeah, I need it to sound like I'm excited to see you, but I don't want to talk to you any more than this. Like, I just want to say hello. Like, hello, and then that's it.
Have you ever seen American Psycho?
No.
Patrick Bateman is the main guy in that. He's the character, whatever, who's like the murderer, axe murderer. You've seen the scene of the axe murder scene of American Psycho.
Yeah.
That hello thing is exactly what that guy would do.
Seriously?
No, like, not like training.
Jesus.
I mean, like the way that he says hello gives off that vibe, and it's like you're trying to go for that vibe, and you practice as like, you know what I mean? It's just you are that guy. Maybe not the axe murderer part, but
no, I don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah, no, not
but
that.
Myself apparently.
Yeah, saying hello, and you still do that. You've been doing that for years.
Yeah. Well, the hello has changed over time because I've realized like I need different pieces to it. Like where the emphasis is in the hello part needs to be different.
Give me a coworker hello.
Hello.
Okay, give me a me hello.
Hey. I don't use the hello on my friends is the thing. As or like when I do, it's by accident and just straight up through like because I've drilled it so much. But the hello is specifically for people that I want to think I'm excited to talk to, but I don't have time to talk to them.
But what if they read?
Because I have some coworkers who will definitely like, if you ask how are you, they'll tell you in great detail over a long period of time, and I don't have time for that.
That's why you never ask how they're doing. Never ask the question if you don't want the answer.
Well, so with my friends, my go-to opener is, hey, how's it going? Like, hey, Joseph, how's it going?
Yeah.
That's like what I go to for you. But I don't even practice that. That's just natural. But with people I don't know, I feel like I have to.
Yeah, but I answer the question, and I think you mostly care about my answer. But if
I do.
If you're like, oh, hey, dude on the street, hey, how's it going? It's like they're supposed to say, good, how are you? And then you just don't respond. That's like the interaction. That's like the typical whatever.
For me, I say, I'm good, how are you? And it's on them now, how they want to handle this.
Yeah, but then if they respond and you're just like, oh, God, I didn't mean how are you? It's like, don't ask it. You could just be that jerk when someone's like, hey, man, how's it going? And you're just like, good. And you keep it moving.
I asked JC a question a couple days ago, and his response to me was, I don't like you. And I think that's the best answer possible.
I don't what?
Like you.
I mean, he says that all the time to you.
I know. Well, so JC at work eats, what he actually eats is Greek yogurt and flax seed, but I keep picking a different seed. So, like, I think I asked him how his mustard seed and sour cream was today, and his response was just, I don't like you.
Yeah, JC doesn't have any of that kind of, like, fakeries in social interactions. He just doesn't care.
He just tells you directly. He spoiled the Sonic movie for me. He told me Sonic flosses 2 times in that movie.
Oh my god. Are you going to come in with that? That was hot. You didn't even we had no talk about the Sonic movie the whole time, and then you just come in with that. Sonic flossing.
I feel like I needed to spoil it for you, too, and every listener out there. I mean, the 4 of them. Because what an experience that was.
I do want to watch that movie. I'm not a Sonic fan really at all, but I learned that John Ralphio, the guy who played John Ralphio in Parks and Rec, is Sonic. So,
oh my god,
totally perfect casting there.
That really is. Yeah, I did the thing I said I didn't like to do, where I just tried to fill empty space, and that's really unfortunate.
It's all good. That's the beauty of being able to edit things. You can cut out whatever you want.
Yeah, but then it's like texting, where when you write a text message, you can like really read through it and be like, is this correct? Like, is this what I want to say? And editing it feels like it's like I'm making this conversation better, which to my insane brain is like, what if you could edit every conversation?
Yeah, then it's like this right now, that little quarter of a second where I said like, and you're just like, oh well, you shouldn't say like in conversation, so I'll cut out all the likes, I'll cut out all the pauses, and I'll try to structure all of this so it flows in one natural like hour and 20-minute conversation. People don't actually like that. People don't talk like that, and it's like, it's not an audiobook, you know?
And that's true.
We're just 2 dudes.
You ready to wrap this bad boy up?
Yes.
All right, so I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
What's the longest you've ever stayed awake?
It was probably the hackathon thing. It was like 36 hours.
Yeah, okay. I figured that was the answer for it. All right, next question. If you could be good at any sport and compete at it at a professional level, what sport would you want to do that
Baseball.
for? Baseball?
I love baseball.
100%?
Yeah. I love baseball.
Like, what about skateboarding?
No, because that's like not fun to me. Like like I stood on a skateboard once and I lost my balance and I was like, well, never doing this again. But baseball, I just love. Like, that game is fun. Being at a baseball stadium is fun. If I was able to actually be good at baseball and get paid for it, that'd be amazing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I respect that.
Yeah. Well, I would hope so. Oh, I have a picture of the Supreme Court, but I edited out Ruth Bader Ginsburg so I can send it to Synovia and say it's when she's being ruthless. So I'll just send her the picture.
Oh my god. I really like that.
Anyway, this is the kind of stuff I have on my computer. It's all garbage.
That's so funny. The ruthless one is just perfect. And the fact that Synovia accepts you for who you are, it's incredible.
I'm surprised every day.
All right, everyone. I hope you at least somewhat enjoyed this podcast.
What a mess. This is such a mess.
No, it's not a mess. We had a lot of random stuff to talk about, and both of us had a light home games week. We had some theoreticals about home games to talk about.
True. It's true.
All right, everyone. Bye-bye.
We should do the Twitter thing. You got to tell them about our Twitter.com.
Please Twitter us at homegames.io.
Please Twitter us, and we also have a website, homegames.io.
We also have a YouTube channel, Home Games.
Google us, Home Games.
We are actually on the first page.
Tell us if we're not, but check.
All right, that's it for us. See you later.
Thank you for listening.